Okay, I'm here today to help you answer a question you might be thinking about, which is how can I become an event planner? Bonjour tout le monde. Hi from my office at Emergence Co-working just outside of Paris. So you want to be an event planner. I have a lot to say on this. I'm just going to give you my thoughts. If you have questions, if I can help you in some other way, put a comment for me, ask me a question, tell me what you think about this video. As many of you may know, I'm a longtime event planner, author, designer, and celebration is in every fiber of my being. I absolutely celebrate every day, and I love the opportunity to celebrate special occasions. And I've spent quite a number of years working on events all along our human experience. So everything from weddings and corporate events and product launches and private social events like birthdays and engagement parties and things like that. And then more recently, over the last few years, working on events related to memorials, or I guess we might say celebration of life. It's something I'm very invested in personally, I'm very passionate about. And so I'm going to give you some thoughts if you are thinking about or wanting to become an event planner yourself. So where to start when you want to become an event planner? Well, I think there are two things you should do first. And one is to think about what you really want from being an event planner, because I'll give you an example. There are people who think they want to be an event planner because they love events, right? They love going to events. They love celebrating. I mean, don't we all? They're very organized. This is a great quality to have. Maybe they've planned something for their high school or university, or for their best friend, or for their family. Maybe they're the one who's always putting things together. And so they think, oh, well, this could possibly be, a good career path for me. And it very well might. There are so many wonderful things about being an event planner, and we can get into all that as well. Being an event planner is not going to events and parties, right? The parties and the events are certainly not for us. They are for those for whom we're creating them. And so I do think, and I have seen in my years working with interns and even freelancers and other people that I've had the chance to work with, that some people are surprised when they really do get into the work of event planning and they see how a large majority of it is not as glamorous as what you would think. And there are parts of it that are glamorous. The photos are great. The flowers are incredible, but those things don't come to be without a lot of, blood, sweat, and tears, quite frankly. And so that's something I think you really have to think about. I would suggest that as you're considering it, the best way to start to get an indication of whether you think it's really right for you is to actually go to work for someone else if you can. In my case, I didn't really have much opportunity to do that, and I ended up learning a lot of lessons the hard way. So if you can freelance, work part-time, even volunteer for like a nonprofit organization that does fundraising events, and really get in there in the trenches and be there like on the event days at the beginning of the day when all the setup is going on and load in and the chaos, and stay late, stay late at the event and see what happens when it all has to get broken down and taken away, and how that all happens when everyone's exhausted, and just get your feet wet, because this is going to give you more of a true picture of what it's really like to be an event planner. And then there's also the side of being with clients, which is wonderful, taking their vision, helping them define their vision, first of all, something I love to do, and then seeing it through all the way, from that initial mood or thought or feeling that they want to capture, through building a team that's right for this particular project, to negotiating on their behalf, to getting everything in order, all your contracts, your insurance certificates, the relationships with the venues, the caterers, choosing the menu, selecting the flowers, making samples of things, writing invitation wording, all of these incredible things. The more that you can jump in and get a sense for which parts you really like, which parts you find inspiring and fun, and which parts are challenging, and then kind of being able to look at the mix of them and to see if that combination is right for you. Because of course there are always some things that are really fun to do in any job, or hopefully in, in most jobs. But then there are also these things that are just like, wow, that's a real pain. Talking about working with clients, that's a very particular set of skills. And for me, I just love it. I love those interactions. I love creating those relationships and having a place in someone's experience where I'm really helping them craft one of the unforgettable moments of their life. Or if I'm working with a company, I'm helping them to put something forward that is, really important to their business. So for me, I feel a sense of real purpose in doing that. Or even in the memorial events, I mean, more than anything, you're really helping the family to celebrate the life of someone they loved and also helping them on their own grief journey. So in all of those, that whole world of different types of events, there's so much that is exciting, but there's also a lot that's very stressful. There's a lot of pressure when it comes to an event, right? The event's going to take place. You don't get do-overs on an event. You can't do somebody's wedding over. You have to solve it if the band doesn't show up, or if somebody doesn't like something, the bride suddenly doesn't like the flowers, or someone has a serious personal problem on the day of the wedding. All of these things fall under your responsibility, really, because it will all come down to you. So these are things that you should think about when you're considering a career in event planning, and you give them some thought. You jump in, you get your feet wet. You start to see the areas where you might really thrive. And I have seen some people find a part of the event planning world that really, jazzes them up. And so they end up going into invitation design, graphic design for weddings, or they end up deciding that they want to work for a really cool catering company and be able to produce the food aspect of things and choose the wines and set the table and things like that. So that could happen too. Or you could decide, like me, I originally got into the event world through restaurants and hospitality. I worked for a number of really amazing restaurateurs and was working for a small restaurant where we could not afford to hire a florist. I knew nothing about flowers at the time. And I volunteered to go to the New York City wholesale flower market, which was not far away, and to get flowers and try to make something of them if the restaurant would pay for these flowers. They said yes, because it just was going to cost them the wholesale cost of the flowers and they would have something. And I looked at it as an opportunity to learn. And it was an incredible education, just going to the New York City flower market, which is, a very special place. Not at all what you would think when you think of, oh, beautiful flowers. 4:30 in the morning, just lots of activity and lots of boxes being swung around and hitting you in the head and whatnot. But I started small like that, and it took me a long time to figure out what was going on with flowers and to get a relationship with them where I could keep them alive in the first place and then start making something beautiful. But out of that grew my event design business. Once I got rolling on the design aspect of things, I thought, well, this is great. I can do flowers and tablecloths and lighting, and then I can set it all up and I can go home when the party starts and have my life. But then my clients started asking me about planning. And they would say, well, we just love working with you on all of the design aspects. Couldn't you help us find a band and find the venue and, just kind of do everything for us, make the timeline? And at first I really resisted it because I thought, I'm not sure if I want to take on that much responsibility for making sure that the event is perfect. And I went into it very gently. To start off with, I got some support so that I could kind of learn from another expert. And I have done a number of events where I was just the designer and we had another planner. But I did find that once I really started getting involved in it, being the control freak that I am, I really liked being the person who was pulling it all together, who was hiring that team and doing that negotiating and having those relationships with the venues and being able to suggest things to my clients and have them say, wow, that's a great idea, so I loved it and I still love it. You can start to get into it in a different way. It doesn't have to be all in all at once. You can come in through one of the parts of event planning, like I said, catering or flowers, or working for a day of wedding planner, for example, or volunteering at a nonprofit and trying to help with their fundraising events. These are all things that you can do. Another thing that I always suggest to people who are considering a career in event planning is to really, if you start to get serious about it, to try And if you are thinking about really being a planner where you're going to have to pull together multiple elements for each of the events that you create, I suggest that you try to become expert in as many of these aspects as you possibly can. And what does that mean? Well, I can talk about that a lot more in detail in another video. But it basically means teaching yourself. I mean, when I wanted to learn about flowers, I got up every morning. I went, before my other job, I went to the flower market and I wrote down the names of flowers and I got books. And I remember one winter I got a book of making wreaths, and all I did was make wreaths all winter long, to the point where my little apartment in Manhattan was completely filled with wreaths. But you know what? I learned how to use a glue gun. I learned how to use wire. I learned different materials and how they last, what you have to do to them. It helped me so much. So I say, try to become an expert. Learn about wine, learn about food, learn about color theory, learn about how to set a table, because these are all things that will help you to build your confidence and will make you more confident in dealing with clients, because they're really putting their confidence in you and you want to be able to advise them. Another thing I suggest is reading about events and about anything that relates to it, whether it is, hospitality management books. Danny Meyer comes to mind as just a really incredible resource. He's someone I used to work for a long time ago, and I found his philosophy on hospitality to be just really inspiring. And then I recently was given this book by a very good friend of mine. It's called The Art of Gathering: How We Meet and Why It Matters. And it's by Priya Parker. I'm not promoting this book. I'm just saying, I read it and it's amazing because it's a very thoughtful take on what coming together means. And so I think to be really, really good at event planning, you've got to have that sense of passion and, purpose in putting together truly special events for people to, to celebrate and to enjoy and to invite and to inspire. So I suggest that you do as much reading as you can. And when you're ready, then you're ready and you can take it slowly. You can work a side job and freelance within the industry for as long as you need, or you could decide to hang your shingle out there and do your own thing. Either way, I hope that this video has been helpful to you. And I'll talk in more detail about my experiences and some of the funny things that have happened to me along the way. And if you do have questions or you want to let me know how you feel or what you're thinking about in terms of event planning, I would love to see a comment from you. Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.